When dealing with a bully or an abuser, they will try to convince you that their behavior is warranted and normal, and they will try to do this by convincing you that everyone else around you is just as bad or worse than they are. Therefore, you need to trust in them. And then they will try to isolate you by pulling you away from other influences so you're easier to control. For example, I knew this guy in high school. He would gather up groups of people together and he would make a ton of crude and explicit jokes. And then he would try to get everyone else in the group to say them too. And at the end, he would say, deep down, we're all really perverted on the inside. And those were his own words, not mine. I eventually stopped associating with him because I did not like his behavior, and he later turned out to be kind of a creep. But that was just one example where he had some messed up ideas and he tried to normalize them in ways that effectively made everyone else negatively influenced by his behavior. In another example, someone I know was in an abusive relationship for far too long, and eventually they actually got out of it, and after talking with them over it, I realized that the reason why they stayed in for so long is because they were convinced that this was the best possible relationship that they could have. They were convinced that there was nobody else that would treat them any better. They were also convinced that they were not worthy of being treated well by someone else, and they were pulled away from all these other influences like their family that would have otherwise accepted them and provided them with a healthier environment to where they could actually function. So they were pulled away from all additional or tangential influences and told to instill all of their trust in this one person who was actively mistreating them. And it was very difficult for them to leave because otherwise there's, in their own head, nowhere for them to go. The same thing could be said for a great deal of Trump supporters, in that they don't hold Trump to a higher standard because they don't know how to. They don't understand why what he's doing is so bad because they just genuinely don't understand how politics works. They also don't understand that there are measures to prevent corruption in politics, but they've never seen those in action. They don't know what it's like to hold a politician accountable. So in many ways, it's incredibly difficult to display metrics of failure and metrics of success in politics because they have none. For that reason, it's impossible to demonstrate that Trump is actively failing to represent them and actively mistreating them until they befall some sort of personal harm that's very difficult for them to ignore. It's been such a gradual process too, but in 2016 it was Trump saying, "Don't trust Rosie O'Donnell." In 2020 it became, "Don't trust 60 Minutes, don't trust CNN, don't trust the Department of Justice, don't trust the CDC." And now in 2025 it's, "Don't trust the FBI, don't trust the Treasury Department, don't trust the State Department." He's running those departments, and we're not supposed to trust him. We're only supposed to trust him. And when you have reports coming from multiple countries that do not agree with each other, if you have the UK, Australia, Russia, Canada, Mexico, and China all agreeing on something, and we're not supposed to believe them, we're supposed to believe Trump, why is that? Why is it that he's the only person that can be trusted? If you support Trump and you don't have an answer for that, well, in many ways, you are in an abusive relationship, and it's something that has been seen over and over again. He makes it so that you do not trust anyone but himself, and he also makes you believe that everyone is just as corrupt as he is. Both of those statements are false.